How's it going, everyone? DFS Phenom back with another week of DraftKings. Sorry I missed yesterday. I was pretty busy. So tonight I'm going to do a Monday night Showdown captains mode between Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh. So let's get started. First person I want to look at, I don't think he's going to be in the captains mode just because of his price. But it's going to be Antonio Brown. Last 2 weeks, if you look at his targets, he's had 17 and 16 targets. Both weeks, he's turned out to have 9 receptions. Granted, one was for 67 yards and one was for 93 yards. And that was even in a bad weather game against Cleveland. So look for him to definitely show up tonight against Tampa Bay. What I really want to see change is his TDs. He's only had one touchdown in the last 2 weeks. Against Cleveland in that, bad weather game, he got you 24 fantasy points, and then against Kansas City, kind of looked like he just fell off. He had 15 fantasy points. So I look for the offense still to go through Brown. I know they have, Connor and Juju Smith-Schuster as other weapons, but I look for Big Ben to target Brown just as many times. Get him, rolling right off the rip. I see Antonio Brown having a big game tonight, so I'm going to put him in my captain spot. The next person I want to see, Roethlisberger. I think he's projected to have like 18 fantasy points tonight. But as it's known, he does not do very well on the road. And that's throughout his whole career. So I'm kind of skeptical of putting him in one of my lineups. I mean, you can just see in the last 2 games. At Cleveland, he scored 17. Granted, it's a bad weather game, but it just kind of shows that he doesn't really do well on the road. He threw 3 interceptions with 1 TD. At home, against Kansas City, he threw 3 TDs and no interceptions. And he had, both games he had a lot of yards, 335 and 452. So I'm kind of skeptical of putting him in my lineup. I may, but I really want to go with Fitzpatrick. If I can get this to click off. My last videos, I kind of actually talked bad about the dude. He's a journeyman throughout the NFL, and for some reason he's found his revival in Tampa Bay. I just read a article where once Winston comes back from his suspension, they're not going to replace Fitzpatrick. They're going to run with the offense they have right now, and then go from there. But if you look at what this guy has done the last 2 weeks, 4 TDs against New Orleans, 4 TDs against Philadelphia. Has thrown over 400 yards in both games. The running game really hasn't been there, so I look for them to pass the ball again tonight and just let Fitzpatrick throw the ball all over the place. The last 2 weeks, he's give you 45 DraftKings points and 33 DraftKings points. So for a couple $100 less, I'm going to draft Fitzpatrick. Next one I want to look at, I really want to stack Deshaun Jackson with Fitzpatrick. I've kind of seen the last 2 weeks that Jackson is Fitzpatrick's favorite target. I know the targets there. They're 5 and they're 4. They're very small productivity. But if you look at the long ball, he took one to the house for 58 yards and another one for 75 yards. Both games he had over 100 yards receiving, and he's had 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. He's also scored you 35 DraftKings points and 26 DraftKings points. So I may even fade Brown for Deshaun Jackson because he's giving you the same amount of productivity on a smaller chunk of targets. So I'm going to pair him with Fitzpatrick. Next person I want to look at, this is kind of like a value play. It saves you some salary, but I want to look at Jesse James. Again, you know, he has a small amount of targets, but so far they've been consistent through the last 2 weeks. He's had 5 targets, which he turned into 3 receptions against Cleveland and 5 receptions against Kansas City. And even in Kansas City, he went up over the 100-yard mark. He had a 46-yard reception, and he had a TD. So for 5,200 on the captain's mode, he is a value pick for me that I would definitely play in my lineup tonight. So just with this lineup that I have right now, it's giving you guys an extra 4,200 to play with. I'm sure that if you read on the stats and kind of follow up on your research, you're going to find a couple of other value plays. I mean, even if you want to go with the 2 defenses, you know, that's going to give you a good lineup. I wouldn't necessarily play both defenses because I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think the over-under is 42. Let me check here. Yeah, I think I saw where it said 42 was the over-under. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, 54 is the over-under. So, it's going to be a high-scoring game. And it actually would scare me to use both defenses. So, hopefully, these picks helped you out. I'm actually going to show you one more that I wouldn't mind using, and that is Barber. He's had a sluggish last 2 weeks. He's 4,600, but he's getting, you know, attempts. He's getting 19 carries and 16 carries. His yardage isn't the greatest, and obviously his fantasy points isn't the greatest, but he's projected to have like 13 points tonight. So if you need a value pick and Jesse James isn't quite there, I would go with Peyton Barber. But as far as much value on this slate, there's not really any. A few. I mean, you could use a kicker. I would go with Catanzaro because Boswell missed a 49 yarder the other night, so Let's see where he missed. He's only made one field goal attempt. Or I'm sorry, he's only had one field goal attempt. He hasn't made any, but he's made all of his extra points. So I would definitely go with Tampa Bay's kicker over Chris Boswell. Trying to look to see if I see any more value. OJ Howard. I haven't really been watching much of Brait, but it looks like he hasn't even really. He's been more just blocking, and OJ Howard is the reception, the targets. But we'll look at his game stats. So even for 5,600, if you don't want to go with Jesse James, in my opinion, Howard would be a good pick too. He had 4 targets for 96 yards. He had 1 TD last week against Philadelphia. And I think, in my opinion, Philadelphia, their defense is a lot better than Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you need a value play and you can get to Howard, I would definitely pick Howard. But between Jesse James and Howard, that's kind of more of who do you think's going to win the game, because it's kind of they're 50-50. So, but yeah, there's another value pick that you can use. Hopefully my picks help you out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share, leave me some feedback in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.